You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. Joe Lewis. We all want to live life to its fullest, both in the short term and in the long term. We want to look back on our lives and say we made an impact. At a very, very early age, I realized that you can die with regrets. My parents were divorced when I was young, and then at the age of 14, the last time I saw my dad was when he remarried, and he died 3 weeks later of a heart attack the day before Thanksgiving. Handling my dad's death was very difficult for me. I had lost hope. In high school, I wished I didn't exist. I didn't bother with suicide because I knew it would not solve my deeper problem. There was no way for me to stop existing. My senior year in high school, I got the opportunity to live with one of my mom's cousins in Sweden. That year totally transformed my life. It taught me to think generationally. That's my grandfather and his brother, Uncle Victor. It gave me family. It gave me community. I began to see culture and education and my faith through a different lens. And fundamentally, it restored my hope. It gave me an anchor to choose to live. So I came back to the U.S., and not only did I decide to live, I decided I wanted to live life to its fullest. I didn't want to die with regrets like my dad did. And so I pondered for a year, what is my purpose? What is my North Star? And I realized it was that I wanted to help underprivileged youth and to let as many people know God's love as possible. I know that I'm not the social worker type. I love people, but I do not like them. So I decided to start a business, generate wealth, invest in other things, and have the financial freedom to help others. So at the ripe old age of 19, a dream was born. And with less than $100, I started Carpe Diem Cleaning. It's a residential cleaning business. What that really means is that I scrub toilets. And a little secret, I hate cleaning. I'm allergic to dust and mold, natural slop, natural cuts. But I found out it didn't kill me and that people would pay for it. So even at a young age, I knew that I wanted to seize my day, and I wanted to help others seize their days. I'd like to share with you today the 2 skill sets that I think are crucial to living life to its maximum, both in the short term and in the long term. I hope these 2 skill sets will be inscribed not only as an epitaph on my tomb, but also on the hearts of those that knew me, that I loved well and that I stewarded well. In order to understand loving well, I'd like to begin with understanding what it means to steward well. I believe that all of life involves the integration of equal and opposite truths. Roy H. Williams introduced me to a concept of integration. Niels Bohr, he shared that Niels Bohr, a famous physicist, once said, "The opposite of a fact is a lie. The opposite of a profound truth is another profound truth." And the easiest way to demonstrate that is if you were married to a Jewish spouse in Germany during World War II and the Gestapo's at your door, do you prioritize honesty or loyalty? If you prioritize honesty, you'll incur the sin of loyalty and betray. If you prioritize loyalty, you'll incur the sin of honesty and lie. Part of leadership is understanding what it is that we need to focus on now. Do we focus on loyalty or honesty? As I delve deeper into this concept, I really believe that there's only 2 profound truths. A little secret about me, I love science. I'm so excited, like some of the slides we have tonight. But the deeper I dig into science, the more real my faith becomes. One of the most fascinating areas of science to me is the study of light. Scientists are only beginning to understand it. But even at an elementary level, we understand that light has a peculiar property that befuddles scientists to this day. It behaves both as a wave and as a particle at the same time. Light needs to be both waves and particles, or it will not be light. In the same way, I believe life has both its waves and its particles, i.e. 2 profound truths. If we discard either truth, we will not be able to live life to its fullest. These categories loosely correlate to the right brain and the left brain. I call the right brain side more of the wave side because light waves are less tangible and harder to understand. This category includes the gentler qualities like the feminine, nurturing, nonprofit work, creativity, art, relationship. That is loving well to me. The other hand, the particles, I like to call the left side of the brain because particles are more tangible. This is the masculine, the for-profit, the structure, efficiency, directness, practicality, and the transactional part of life. This is stewarding well to me. There are times that you should prioritize the wave, loving well, to get the results that you want. There's other times that you should prioritize the particles, stewarding well, to get what you need. But even in that prioritization, you need both. There are dozens of areas where we need to choose where to focus and how to prioritize. Do I prioritize marketing or operations or human resources with my time or money? Do I invest in my staff or what about my own personal needs? Do I lead with a nonprofit heart or do I prioritize a for-profit platform? Do I focus on meeting urgent needs or building important infrastructure for the long term? Both are important. And the key to leadership is learning where and what to place your focus on. Time management is an important tool of integration to learn how to focus. We must prioritize between the urgent and the important. Ben Franklin says this, "Thou lovest life, that do not squander time, for that is the stuff that life is made from." The Eisenhower matrix is the main tool that is utilized for time management. We have 4 quadrants of how we are going to invest our life. There's quadrant 1, and that is that which is highly urgent and highly important. This is breaking your arm. It's both urgent, you're in a lot of pain, and important because you better get that arm fixed because you kind of want it. It's helpful. You probably should go to the doctor today. This quadrant also includes direct billable hours, time with your family, produce deliverables for your clients. These are the things that have to be done today, and this is what we invest our lives in doing. Quadrant 2, that is low urgency but high importance. This includes building systems for your business. It's exercising. It's date night with your partner or with yourself. It's the things that if you don't do them today, you will still not get the immediate emotional consequence for not doing it. I didn't exercise today because I was working on this. There wasn't that immediate emotional impact for not doing that today. And then there is quadrant 3, highly urgent but not necessarily important in this moment. There was a season in my life where our debit cards kept on getting hacked. And it was one of those times the debit card got hacked again. So I have to call the bank and they will tell you, hey, you got to be on hold for 15 minutes. And it was 11:48 and I had a meeting at noon. So I had to prioritize. And that debit card hack felt very urgent and very important because who wants to get their debit card hacked? And I had 4 people waiting for me at the same time. Which do I prioritize? In that moment, I realized that if I call the bank at noon or at 2, I'm still going to get the same results. So though the debit card hack is urgent and important, it wasn't important at 11:48 a.m. So I decided to go to the meeting. I worked very hard to be on time. My staff appreciates it. It's important to them. And I was rushing out to get to the conference room and I knocked down a chair. And that moment, again, I had to prioritize between 2 good things. It wasn't right or wrong. Do I pick up the chair or not? And I realized if I picked up that chair, then I was going to be a few seconds late to that meeting. And that there was not going to be anyone in my office for the next 2 hours. So though it felt urgent to pick up the chair, it wasn't important in that moment. So I left, went to the meeting, had a great meeting, came back at 2, picked up the chair, called the bank, only to find out that the charges were pending and there wasn't a whole lot that we could do until tomorrow anyway. So that illustrates that there are things that feel really urgent, but they're not always important in that moment. And then there's quadrant 4, low urgency, low importance. It's wasting time. It's goofing off on social media. It's attending meetings that you really don't want to be at that really aren't making you grow. Our future lies in quadrant 2. Low urgency and high importance. And yet, that is where we spend the least amount of time. As I learned this, I made a commitment to begin to build the skill set of prioritizing as much time in quadrant 2 as I could. The key to focus is to know where to place your intentionality. What is it that you need to focus on? Urgent or important? Mother Teresa was aware of the importance of focus. She refused to go to an anti-war rally because she knew that even if you had the word anti in front of it, you would facilitate more war. She would only go to a pro-peace rally because the focus was on peace. Whatever we focus on, we will get more of. If we focus on the important, we will and make that long-term investment, we will get long-term benefits. If we focus on the urgent, we will only get more emergencies. We will always have urgent. I've been in a season of urgent lately. I've got young kids. She was crying, "Mama, Mama," on the way out. My mom is dying. We've moved. My business is transitioning, and we need new systems to go to that next level. I grapple with time budget myself. And yet, I focus on how can I primarily live in quadrant 2 and 1, and not in 3 and 1. We'll always have 1. But with great commitment and intensity, I focus on that quadrant 2. The most important thing, as I decided to prioritize that which was truly important, and not only the urgent, I decide what is important. The most important thing to me is loving well. And I'd like to continue to share with you some thoughts around loving well systematically, not just in the tasks that we do. The first way that I prioritize loving well is by investing in the future generation. One day I was bored watching C-SPAN 2. I never watched C-SPAN 2. I think this is the only 5 minutes I've ever watched C-SPAN 2. And there's some guy out there, and he's talking about Ben Franklin. And Ben Franklin had this long will and testament, and he gave some stuff to his family, and then he had this witty way of saying, "Family, get over yourselves," because then what he did was he took the majority of his inheritance and he made the first microcredit fund that would help businesses. So then he calculated that investment plus interest, not inflation, and 100 years later, and figured out what that amount would be. And then when that amount was finished, it would be reinvested into Philadelphia and into Boston. As I heard this, I'm like, 100 years? Like, what am I gonna leave in 100 years? Like, am I even thinking about the people who are here 100 years after me? And so far as strengths and weaknesses, Ben was brilliant to be thinking about 100 years after his life. And it challenged me that day. What do I need to be investing in so that the gift of the light of my life can be able to be for the generations that are 100 years from now? Could I be fluent in loving well and stewarding well in such a way that I could leave something for those that do not know me? What about you? What would you like to leave for 100 years from now? One of the ways I hope to impact future generations is through changing systems, not just individuals. One day in my mid-20s, I was reading this magazine article about the 100 million street children in the world. As I began to ponder that number, that unfathomable number, I realized, it's great to help the ones, the fives, and the thousands, but if there are systems that are causing this number, then what are the systemic changes that can impact this number? And trying to describe systemic, I did the solar system and the earth. Like, our weather is not just from the earth, it's from the solar system that we are in. What are the systems? And so I made a commitment that could I invest my life in systemic change, not just individual change. My first crisis of faith led me to buy a home in the inner city where I lived for 18 years, because I knew some of the changes of systemic change has to come from the inside out. It has to come through relationship. And I believe entrepreneurship is the key to that as well. All of this led me to buy a blighted historic warehouse where everyone thought I was crazy. Absolutely crazy. Like, what are you doing? Spoiler alert, they now think I'm cool. Understanding systemic ways to love actually developed from both business and personal mistakes. My first major $200,000 business mistake happened when I was in my late 20s. As I grew the business, I was ready for my first managerial hire. Woohoo! And FYI, as an entrepreneur, I always see potential. Always. Yeah. And so the woman I was interviewing, she had run a large, successful nonprofit. She said her heart was for helping people, helping me, and she knew how to run a company. I was so excited. I'm like, finally I'm going to hire someone that has the skill sets to grow the business. Then I can go change the world. What I wasn't saying out loud is that I had a hidden fear of how inept I thought I was to run a business. And I believe this woman could do a better job than me. So I turned everything over to her and took my hands off the business. Well, I hired someone that had a great heart, but she didn't have the skill set to run the business, nor the character to say, I messed up, I need help. She forgot to pay bills, including a little company called the IRS. She didn't forget to pay herself, but she didn't invoice for the work that we did, and she ran the business almost to the ground. So instead of firing her, since I was the problem, I decided to support her. Well, we knew, no surprise, that support didn't help. So finally, she tripped on a mat at the bank and was released to her destiny through workers' comp. Bless my heart. As I began to navigate the mess, I realized that I could tell the story of how she wronged me. But I also knew that if I wanted to grow into the person that I needed to be and to not make that same mistake again, I had to figure out what my part of the problem is. Light will travel over 93 million miles to reach Earth, yet our shadows can prevent it from reaching its destination. What was my shadow in this mess? Where was I preventing the light from coming? One of the lessons I learned from this failure I like to call bridges of trust. Different bridges have different purposes. If you have a small walking bridge that's been there for thousands of years, it can't sustain a semi-truck going over it. On the other hand, the Golden Gate Bridge in rush hour is not ideal for foot traffic. All relationships are bridges of trust. Trust is the transactional part of the relationship. It's the doing part, whether it's in the personal realm, taking out the trash or paying the bills. In the business realm, who does what duty to provide a solution for our customers? How much trust can that bridge hold? If I need to trust someone with a semi-truck's worth of trust, but they only have the capacity of a footbridge, then why am I surprised that the bridge breaks? You know? If I have a need of the size of the Golden Gate Bridge, but that person doesn't have the skills or the character or the capacity to fulfill that, that's on me. I did not set them up for success. Regardless of the bridge, it is my responsibility as a leader to determine the bridge and its purposes with that person's capacity. We all have and need bridges of trust in all areas of our lives. The truth is, we have legitimate needs. Part of loving well is learning what capacity another person has to fulfill our legitimate trust needs. If they don't have the capacity to meet your need, it's okay. It really is. They're not the right person for that bridge. My hire from above had a great heart, and overall she had great intentions. She did not have the capacity of skill and character to handle the weight of the bridge of trust that I extended to her. The bridge collapsed, and that was on me. The skill set of trust is an extremely important part of loving well. We must learn how to trust people with the right load so that they can succeed in being trustworthy. I have found that most people want to show up well, and giving them the right portion bridge aligns with their capacity is the key to healthy leadership and relationships, both in our business and in our lives. From my first $200,000 wrong hire that took me way too long to fire, to my $300,000 oops, wrong partner mistake, to my second $300,000 business and personal oops that would rival any Lifetime movie, I had plenty of failures to learn from on building healthy bridges of trust. However, I want to pause and point one thing out. My life is flourishing. These failures did not define my life, but they pivoted me to the next level. I have more confidence today than ever before, and I've broken through my internal ceilings. And these failures were the price that I needed to pay for breakthrough. Babe Ruth is one of the most famous baseball players. Not only is he the home run king of all times, but he's also the strikeout king. Similarly, the strikes in my life allowed me to become a home run hitter and has given me a powerful message that I can invest in future entrepreneurs. Not only did I need to calibrate trust with others, but I needed to calibrate trust with myself. Any choice that I make out of fear is usually the wrong choice. My choice to place all responsibility on someone else was a choice made fundamentally out of fear. I failed to trust myself. I had underestimated and underinvested in me. This leads to the other critical way I prioritize loving well, which is investing in myself. As I process and press through the rebuilding of my company, I decided to invest in me. I realized I had a gift of capacity after all. As I broke through my internal ceilings and learned to trust myself to lead, I began to build capacity again. I've learned to have more realistic expectations, both of my team members and of myself. The number one relationship that's important to practice is, again, your relationship with you. When you are flying and you're going through the safety announcements, the main announcement that they have is if this plane does whatever and the oxygen mask comes down, you have to put your own oxygen mask on first and then put the oxygen mask on the child or the other person next to you. The most effective way we can help others, the most effective way we will all fulfill our dreams, and the most effective way we will build amazing companies is to master putting on our own oxygen masks first. Question: how much time, money, and energy do you put in planning your business? What about your vacation? What about your hobby? What if you invested that same amount in planning your life and working on your relationship with yourself? I believe the greatest gift that I could give you in this moment is to encourage you to take that investment into healing relationship with yourself and your life. I want to encourage you to take one pivotal step that could unlock the next season of your life. Stewarding well is prioritizing well. Start taking time to have meetings with yourself. Invest in your relationship with you. Create your life plan. Others will come and go, and you will always be in relationship with you. And as much as I wish I could take a vacation from me, I can't. What would your life look like if you put on your own oxygen mask first? I would like for you to take a moment and set a date with yourself. During that time, work on your dreams and your goals and your vision for 100 years down the road. Ask yourself, how are you going to start focusing on what's important and not just urgent? I have a free gift that I'd like to share with you. If you can pull out your phones and scan this QR code, which in this moment the QR code is a little bit fuzzy. That's the one thing we couldn't get. I will email you guys if you want instead. And I would like for you to let me know if you don't mind when you scheduled your first meeting with yourself. And I'd like to ask your permission to follow up and see how it went. We all need each other on this journey of prioritization and integration. As you integrate your waves and your particles, your urgent and your important, your practical and your relational, I am excited to see the light of who you are and how the world will see it. As I've walked through this life with this dream of living it to its fullest, I've noticed that there's a nuance of prioritization that can either make you or break you. As I watch professional sports players, I cannot name one of them that does not have a coach. Nor can I find one that pays less for their coaching than an amateur, or has an inferior coach than an amateur. Yet in life, I see people getting to the top of their game and assuming that they don't need a coach, and they stop growing. A few years back, I had the opportunity to go visit the Olympic Museum in Colorado Springs, and I was really curious, would there be anything around the coaching for an Olympian? And as it turns out, there was. And in that display, I found out that there's 11 coaches to one Olympic player. How many coaches do you have? Are you practicing prioritizing your strategic, important life goals? Keep finding your coaches. Keep investing in yourself. You are your greatest asset. It is the one great paradox of life. The more that you become the Olympic player and living fully as you, the greater the impact, the greater the influence, and the greater confidence of a life lived well. May you live with waves and particles in the right prioritization sequence for the gift of who you are. May you continue to unlock your internal ceilings. May you continue to create capacity to fulfill the dreams of your heart. May we together have the confidence that we have loved well and stewarded well and have lived our lives to the fullest, no matter what. Thank you. Yay!